There is a mystery I must share with you today. It is the mystery of silence, the mystery of withdrawal, the mystery of distance. When you cease your contact with a man, something begins to happen. At first, he may not notice. The silence may seem small, almost invisible, but silence has power. It is not empty, it speaks. And what it speaks is louder than words. When you stop reaching out, when the messages no longer come, when the phone no longer rings suddenly, the absence begins to echo. It stirs within him a realization of what was once present. What was taken for granted is now missed. The human heart is such that it rarely treasures what it constantly possesses. But remove the constant and suddenly the absence becomes presence. The silence becomes a voice. The withdrawal becomes a mirror, revealing to him who he is, what he has lost, and what truly mattered. For some, it will awaken pursuit. He will feel the weight of what slipped through his hands, and he will seek to reclaim it. For others, it will reveal the truth, that his heart was never aligned, and the silence exposes the emptiness that was already there. And so the mystery is this: sometimes the most powerful message is not what you say, but what you stop saying. Not the contact you give, but the contact you withhold. In that space, the truth of the heart is revealed, whether he will rise or whether he will fade. So remember this principle: silence is not weakness. Absence is not defeat. Sometimes it is the very key that unlocks revelation. Silence speaks louder than words. At first, it may appear as nothing, as an empty space where sound once lived, but silence is never truly empty. It carries weight, it carries meaning, and it carries a voice of its own. When contact ceases, when the words that once flowed stop coming, the silence that takes its place begins to communicate in ways words never could. It whispers to the mind and echoes in the heart. The absence of speech becomes a language of truth. When someone has grown used to constant communication, when a man receives messages, calls, and attention, it becomes the normal rhythm of his life. He may even stop noticing it, stop valuing it, because the familiar often fades into the background. But when that rhythm halts, when the stream of words dries up, something shifts inside him. He suddenly feels the void that silence creates. The phone that once lit up is now still. The sound that once filled his days is gone. And that emptiness is not empty at all. It speaks of what is missing. Silence reveals what words can never say. Words can be manipulated, dressed up, or spoken without thought. But silence is honest. It cannot pretend. It cannot disguise itself. It is raw truth. In that quiet, he begins to hear not only the absence of another voice, but the presence of his own thoughts. Reflection stirs. Questions rise. Why did the words stop? Why has the voice fallen silent? What has been lost? In the quiet, he sees the reality of what was once his and what he may have taken for granted. There is a paradox in life. We rarely value what is constantly available to us. The sun rises each morning, and we seldom pause to marvel. The air fills our lungs, yet we rarely stop to give thanks. In the same way, the heart grows accustomed to presence, to attention, to love given freely. It is only when that presence is withdrawn that the weight of it is felt. And in that moment, silence becomes a teacher. It teaches the lesson of appreciation too late for some, just in time for others. A man who does not care will meet silence with silence. It will not disturb him. It will not move him, because the heart was never engaged in the first place. But a man who has been blind to what he had will be awakened. Silence will strike him like thunder in the night. It will press on his heart until he recognizes what he lost what he neglected, and what he needs to reclaim. Silence also reveals power. Many believe that strength is found in speaking, in pursuing, in making noise. Yet, there is a greater strength in restraint. To withhold words, to stop reaching out, to allow space to speak for itself. This is not weakness, but wisdom. It is the strength to step back and allow truth to unfold without forcing it. It is the strength of knowing that silence itself will reveal what words cannot. So when words stop, when the voice is gone, when contact ceases, the silence that follows is not empty. It is filled with meaning, with questions, with truth. It may awaken longing, it may expose indifference, but it will always speak. And what it speaks is often louder than anything that could ever be said aloud. Absence creates awareness. It is one of the great mysteries of human nature that we often fail to recognize the value of something while it is within our grasp. The heart, so quick to adjust, grows numb to what is constant. The daily presence of a person, their words, their attention, their concern, it becomes part of the background, almost invisible. What once thrilled now feels ordinary. What once stood out becomes routine. But the moment it is gone, the moment the voice no longer comes, the presence no longer lingers, the messages no longer arrive, something awakens within. That very absence, which at first seems like nothingness, transforms into awareness, sharper and deeper than any words could create. When contact is broken, the silence becomes a mirror. It shows the one left behind the reality of what they had and what they now lack. Suddenly, the mind replays moments that had been taken for granted. The small gestures, the simple words, the unspoken bond, all of it returns in sharper focus. It is in absence that appreciation grows, because only then does the heart begin to measure the true weight of what is missing. The absence begins to stir memory, and memory gives birth to longing. A man may walk through life surrounded by light, yet never truly see it until the darkness falls. In the same way, he may have been given attention, care, even love, but blindness prevented him from seeing its worth. The break in contact forces him to notice what had gone unnoticed. The silence is not silent. It speaks, and what it says is undeniable. Something is missing. The heart knows it. The mind knows it, even if the lips never confess it. Absence awakens reflection. It stirs the conscience. It makes a man face questions he might have been avoiding. Why has the connection ceased? Was it something he did or something he failed to do? Did he neglect what was valuable, treating it as though it would always be there? These questions press in, refusing to be ignored. They become a fire within the quiet, forcing him to look at himself in a way he never did while the connection was alive. The awareness absence creates can cut in two directions. For some, it is the sting of regret. They come to see that what they once had was rare, precious, and irreplaceable. They realize that the calls, the texts, the laughter, the care were not ordinary at all, but gifts. And in their absence, they see the depth of what they lost. This awareness drives them to seek, to pursue, to make right what went wrong. For others, however, the awareness is not of loss, but of truth. They realize that their heart was never truly in it, that the connection was never as deep as it should have been. Absence strips away illusions. It removes the noise and shows what lies beneath. If the bond was shallow, the silence will not disturb. If the heart was disengaged, the void will not ache. And so, absence becomes the test that reveals what was real and what was not. The irony is that presence can dull the senses while absence sharpens them. A man may fail to notice the constant messages because they are always there. He may fail to treasure the one reaching out because the voice is always available. But the moment that presence is gone, he cannot help but feel it. The human heart is designed to awaken in the void. The loss stirs the hunger, and the hunger creates awareness of what was once taken lightly. Absence also has the power to reorder priorities. In the stillness it creates, distractions fall away, and the essentials rise to the surface. A man who lived distracted, chasing after noise, begins to see more clearly when silence confronts him. He recognizes what truly mattered, what should have mattered all along. What was once overlooked now stands as a pillar in his thoughts. Absence is often the only teacher strong enough to break through pride and awaken humility. It is also through absence that desire is tested. Words can be spoken without meaning. Attention can be given without depth, but when absence comes, it reveals whether the desire was true or false. If he truly cared, absence will push him toward action. He will feel the emptiness and seek to fill it. But if his heart was never truly invested, then absence will pass without stirring him at all. And in that, awareness is created for both sides. The one who stopped reaching out learns the truth of the other's heart, while the man learns the truth of his own. There is also a spiritual mystery here. Just as people fail to appreciate one another until absence comes, so too do many fail to appreciate the blessings of life until they are gone. Health, peace, freedom, opportunities, all seem ordinary until they are removed. It is in losing them that awareness comes. Absence creates vision. The eyes open only when the familiar disappears. And so absence is not a void. It is not empty, meaningless nothingness. It is filled with revelation, filled with truth, filled with lessons that presence cannot teach. It creates awareness in the mind and awakening in the heart. It forces the blind to see, the ungrateful to value, and the complacent to reflect. It turns what was once taken lightly into something weighty. It transforms what was ignored into something treasured. When the messages no longer come, when the voice no longer calls, when the presence no longer lingers, it does not fade into nothing. It becomes something. It becomes the loudest message of all, that absence has power to create awareness, to stir longing, to reveal truth, and to teach what presence never co-eldite the heart is tested in silence. It is in the quiet spaces of life, when words no longer flow, when contact is withdrawn, that the true condition of the heart is revealed. Silence is not neutral. It does not merely fill time, it exposes. It uncovers motives, reveals desires, and lays bare the truth that noise often hides. In constant communication, in the rhythm of daily exchanges, a man can mask his true self. He can respond without thinking, play the part expected of him, and move along with the flow. But when silence comes, when the usual patterns are broken, there is nothing left to shield the heart. What lies within begins to surface. In silence, the heart faces a test it cannot escape. Some hearts, shallow and uncommitted, are unaffected. They feel no weight, no stirring, no ache in the absence. To them, silence is convenient, even welcome. It confirms what was already true, that their investment was minimal, their connection surfaced deep. For such a heart, silence does not wound, because it never cared enough to feel loss. This reveals a truth harsher than words could ever express. Indifference is often more painful than rejection, but for others, silence unsettles. It awakens questions that cannot be silenced. Why did the words stop? Why is there distance where once there was closeness? Why has the familiar voice gone quiet? The heart that truly valued the connection cannot ignore these questions. It feels the weight of absence pressing against it. The silence becomes a mirror, forcing it to confront not only what was lost, but what was neglected. This is the test. Will the heart rise to pursue, or will it shrink back and remain still? The test of silence is also the test of patience. In a world driven by instant responses, silence stretches time. Hours feel longer, days heavier. The waiting tests endurance. The heart is pressed to reveal whether it can hold steady without constant reassurance. A shallow heart grows restless and quickly turns elsewhere. A faithful heart endures, holding on to what it knows, unwilling to let go easily. In this way, silence becomes the refining fire, separating what is fleeting from what is steadfast. There is another layer to this test. Silence often forces a man to confront himself. Without the distraction of another's words, he begins to hear his own. Without the comfort of constant reassurance, he must look inward. Silence strips away excuses and reveals the truth of who he is when no one is reaching out to him. Does he respond with humility, realizing his neglect, recognizing his fault, awakening to the value of what was given? Or does he respond with pride, dismissing the absence as meaningless, refusing to reflect, choosing the easier path of denial? The test of silence is not just about the bond. It is about the soul of the one who is tested. What makes silence powerful is that it does not allow neutrality. It demands a response. Even doing nothing in the face of silence is itself a response, and it reveals much. A man who truly cares will feel the urge to move, to bridge the gap, to restore what has been broken. A man who is indifferent will let the silence remain unmoved, untouched. And so silence acts as a dividing line, separating those whose hearts are true from those whose hearts were never truly engaged. There is also a purifying aspect to silence. For the one who withholds contact, it is not only a test of the other's heart, but also a revelation of their own strength. It shows whether they can stand in stillness, whether they can hold their ground, whether they can let silence do the work that words cannot. But for the one who receives the silence, it is a refining of motives. If he seeks to restore contact, is it because of genuine care or because of wounded pride? If he feels the loss, is it the person he misses or simply the attention? Silence does not lie. It uncovers the deepest truths, both pure and impure. Ultimately, silence is a proven ground. Just as fire tests gold and storms tests the strength of a house, silence tests the condition of the heart. It strips away illusions, leaving only what is real. And what is real is revealed not in how a man speaks when words are easy, but in how he acts when words are gone. The heart is not tested in comfort, but in challenge, not in constant presence, but in sudden absence. When silence descends, it does not come to destroy, but to expose. It reveals who is true and who is false, who values and who neglects, who will rise and who will fade. It is not a punishment, but a revelation, a test designed to show the reality of the bond. For in the end, words can deceive, but silence always tells the truth. Silence awakens pursuit or indifference. It is in the moment when contact ceases, when the voice no longer calls and the messages no longer arrive, that the heart is confronted with a choice. The quiet does not remain neutral. It provokes a response. For some, silence stirs a deep restlessness that cannot be ignored. They feel the emptiness growing, and it awakens within them the urge to pursue, to chase after what has been lost, to bridge the distance with effort. For others, however, silence produces nothing at all. They remain unmoved, untouched, and the absence only reveals the indifference that was already within. When communication flows easily, it is difficult to tell the difference between genuine care and mere convenience. Words can be given without thought. Attention can be offered without depth. But when the flow is interrupted, when the one who used to reach out suddenly withdraws, silence presses the heart to show its true face. The one who values the bond feels the sudden weight of absence and cannot simply let it go. Silence becomes the spark that ignites pursuit. He begins to wonder, to reflect, to long for what was once constant. His heart pushes him forward to act, to restore, to seek again what has slipped away. Yet the opposite is also true. Silence exposes indifference. A man who was only half invested, who enjoyed attention but never truly gave his heart, will not be disturbed by the quiet. The absence of words is not felt as loss, but as freedom. He does not ask why the contact ended, nor does he seek to repair it, because there was nothing strong enough within him to move him. Silence becomes the mirror showing what was already true, that the bond was never cherished and the effort was never mutual. This is the dividing line silence creates: pursuit or indifference, action or inaction, care or neglect. It is not a gray space, but a sharp contrast. The one who is awakened by silence will reveal himself through his movement, while the one who remains indifferent will reveal himself through his stillness. In this way, silence is more powerful than words because it forces a choice that cannot be hidden. For the man whose heart is stirred, pursuit is born out of realization. He begins to recognize the value of what he once took for granted. He feels the ache of absence pressing against him, reminding him of what he has lost. Silence becomes not just emptiness, but a call to act, to correct, to seek. And often this pursuit comes with a new urgency, because he understands that what he allowed to slip away may not return unless he moves. For the one who remains unmoved, silence does not awaken anything at all. It is met with passivity, with neglect, with indifference that speaks volumes. And though such a response may hurt, it is also a gift, for it reveals the truth that words or gestures might have hidden. Indifference is not created by silence, it is only revealed by it. Thus, silence stands as a test and a teacher. It awakens in some the fire to pursue, to show that their care runs deeper than convenience. And in others, it reveals the absence of true feeling, showing that no pursuit will ever come because the heart was never fully present. In the end, silence does not destroy, it only uncovers. And what it uncovers is the dividing line between pursuit and indifference, between those who value and those who never did. Distance is a mirror. When space is created, when the closeness that once existed begins to fade, it does not remain as empty space. That distance reflects back the reality of what was truly there. In presence, it is easy to overlook truth. Proximity can hide weakness. Constant contact can disguise indifference, and familiarity can make flaws appear smaller than they are. But when distance enters, all illusions fall away. What was hidden is brought into the open, and the heart is forced to face itself in the reflection. When someone steps back, when communication ceases, when silence and space replace daily presence, the one left behind is confronted with a mirror. Suddenly he must see himself, not as he wished to appear, but as he is. The absence of another's words forces him to listen to his own. The lack of constant reassurance forces him to ask questions he avoided. Distance reveals whether he truly valued the bond or whether he simply grew comfortable in its convenience. It exposes whether his love was deep or shallow, whether his commitment was firm or fragile. For many, distance becomes a painful revelation. In the quiet, they begin to realize the weight of what they have lost. The mirror of distance shows them not only the absence of the other, but also their own neglect, their own complacency, their own blindness. They remember the times they ignored effort, the moments they dismissed care, the days they took attention for granted. The mirror does not flatter, it shows reality. And reality is often far harsher than the illusions we cling to in closeness. Yet, for others, distance confirms what they already knew but would not admit. The mirror reveals not longing, but relief. They discover that their heart was never truly invested, that the closeness was more habit than desire. In such cases, the reflection is not of regret, but of indifference. And though this may seem cruel, it is truth. Distance does not create indifference. It only shines the light upon it, removing the excuses that presence once allowed. The mirror of distance also works in another way. It reflects the true worth of the connection itself. If the bond was genuine, distance will highlight its value. The one who is tested will feel its absence deeply, will recognize its significance, and may even be stirred to act. But if the bond was shallow, if it was built on convenience or surface attraction, distance will reveal its fragility. It will crumble easily, with little resistance, because it was never built to last. Distance is therefore not the enemy. It is the revealer. It is the teacher. It gives clarity where closeness gave confusion. It exposes truth where presence allowed shadows. It is uncomfortable, sometimes even painful, but it is necessary because only in seeing the reflection clearly can the heart learn. The one who truly values will be awakened. The one who does not will be unmasked. And so distance stands as a mirror. It does not lie. It does not soften. It does not exaggerate. It reflects back exactly what was there all along. It shows whether the bond was real or false, whether the love was deep or shallow, whether the heart will rise in pursuit or remain still in indifference. In this way, distance becomes the great revealer of truth. Silence is power, not weakness. Many mistake silence for surrender, for passivity, for the absence of strength. They think that to stop speaking, to step back, to withhold contact, is to lose. Yet in truth, silence is often the strongest voice of all. It does not need to prove itself with noise. It does not rush to explain, to defend, or to persuade. It simply stands steady and unshaken, carrying a weight that words cannot match. When someone withdraws their voice, it is not always out of fear or defeat. More often, it is out of wisdom. Silence chooses not to spend energy where it will not be valued. It refuses to waste words where ears do not listen. It withholds presence so that its absence will speak louder than its presence ever did. This is not weakness. It is strategy. It is clarity. It is power. For a man who has grown accustomed to constant attention, silence is unsettling. He may not recognize it immediately, but over time it begins to press on him. The calls that no longer come, the messages that no longer arrive, the care that no longer surrounds him, all of these create a void. That void is not empty. It is filled with the strength of silence. It forces him to face what he has lost without being told. It compels him to reflect without being urged. Silence accomplishes what repeated words could never achieve, because words can be dismissed, but silence cannot be ignored. Silence also redefines control. When you stop reaching out, when you allow the space to grow, you shift the balance. The one who expected effort from you is now forced to examine his own effort. The one who relied on your pursuit must now decide if he will pursue in return. The silence shifts the responsibility, and in doing so, it reveals truth. If he cares, he will step forward. If he does not, he will remain still. Either way, silence holds the power to expose what words cannot. There is also dignity in silence. It is the refusal to beg, to chase endlessly, to fight battles that cannot be won by force. It is the recognition of worth, knowing that your voice has value, and that to withhold it is sometimes the strongest declaration of all. Silence says, I will not waste what is precious on those who cannot see its worth. This quiet stance commands respect, even from those who may not admit it. In silence, there is also healing. Words spoken in pain can wound both the speaker and the listener. But silence allows space for reflection, for perspective, for strength to be rebuilt. It does not escalate conflict. It absorbs it. It does not feed chaos. It stills it. In this way, silence becomes not just power over others, but power over oneself. It is the discipline to hold back when speaking would bring no good, the strength to endure without constant expression. Those who misinterpret silence as weakness fail to see its depth. Weakness is reaction without thought, noise without meaning, desperation without dignity. Power is restraint. Power is choosing when to speak and when not to. Power is letting silence say what words cannot. So silence must never be underestimated. It may seem soft, but it is sharp. It may seem passive, but it is active in its effect. It unsettles, it teaches, it reveals, and it commands. It is not the absence of strength, but the highest form of it. The strength to hold still, the wisdom to withhold, the courage to let silence speak louder than words.